Before I introduce Kathleen Johnston, our speaker today, I should say I am on the board of the Arnolt Centre, so I also work for Limestone Post, and we are collaborating with the Arnolt Centre. We just published a story with them about emergency medical services. We're working on another one about lack of funding for the 988 suicide line. So that's my connection up front. So Kathleen's the founding director of the Arnolt Centre, and she's also a professor of practice at IU. She is an alumna of the school and received the school's Distinguished Alumni Award. She has been a national level investigative journalism producer for a long time. She worked for CNN, she worked for CBS. She's won every award you can think of. She was just inducted into the Indiana Journalism Hall of Fame about 3 weeks ago. What I wanted to say was that Kathleen's connections and her the esteem in which people hold her has allowed the centre to develop in a way I don't think it could have otherwise. The first speaker we had, or I say we because I worked in the media school then, was Scott Pelley from 60 Minutes. That's the clout that Kathleen has. Last year we had Maria Ressa, a Nobel Prize winner. Kathleen's going to tell you about the speaker. Well, the next speaker is going to be Marty Baron, former editor of the Washington Post and the Boston Globe. So that tells you a lot about the influence Kathleen's had. That also has led to a lot of opportunities for students in terms of story partnerships, in terms of jobs. So I think that's probably enough, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. So, as you know, it's been a very quiet week at the media school. And I know you all want to ask me, so I will tell you this. I do want to talk about, I'm here to talk about the Arnolt Center. And as I told my colleagues this week, you would never know I'm Irish because how I got the timing to do this in the midst of that controversy. I'll talk to you after, during the question and answer to what degree I can. I have my posse here. I've got Ann on the board and Emily and Charlene and Dave Weaver. They're all on our board. But please direct all the questions to Ruth back here. I'm an IDS alumni, so I will talk to you as a professor of practice if you have any questions. And the other thing is I just had some minor back surgery, and I know people say minor, and it was minor. But so I'm fidgeting up here. It's because it's a little uncomfortable to stand, so I'm not usually this, back and forth. So I hope your Zoom doesn't do it. Look, Ann asked me to talk to you about investigative journalism, and it just drives me crazy that everybody talks about how bad journalism is these days, and you can't get jobs, and that's not what I'm seeing. I have 51 students in the Arnolt Center, 51. We started 7 years ago with 12, and 8 of them I twisted their arms to join. And I have a waiting list of 31. And, in fact, I'm meeting with my board on Zoom next week, I think, because I don't know how I can accommodate all of them, but I don't want to say no. And that's one of the things I like about the Arnolt Center. The way we set it up is we let everybody join as a student. We have students from other schools, and we pay our students. The whole way this is set up, I'd like to explain a little bit about how we go about reporting there and why I think this is a great time to be an investigative journalist. There's just so much out there to investigate, and so many new tools. So we started 7 years ago with an endowment of $6 million from Michael Arnolt. And I know that sounds really lush, but we live off the interest and very little bit of the interest. So we are always fundraising like everybody else. I set this up, initially I think this was set up primarily for grad students. But I said right away when I applied for this job that I thought it had to be undergrads. And I thought the students needed to be paid. because journalists, our work has value, and we need to communicate that to our students, and we need to communicate that to employers when they wonder why students aren't taking their jobs. Well, they can't live on $20,000, and so we pay our students. It's an hourly wage. It's basically beer money, as I say, but it gets them vested in the work. And the other thing we did is we set it up so that students would work with professional media partners on state and local and national stories. Now, initially, the IDS was not our friend. There was some communication made by people who are no longer here that made them think that the investigative center was something better or different than they were. And so they initially said we couldn't, and if you worked at the IDS, you couldn't work with us. And we decided just to let that play out. But in order to show our good faith, we said we won't cover Bloomington or IU mostly, because I'm a journalist and I'm never going to say never to a good story. And that seemed to calm people. And there's so much more work to be done. And they do a fine job, I think, the IDS, of covering. And IUS TV, too. I don't want to give them short shrift. And we initially partnered with Gray TV. Gray TV has, it's the second largest television group in the country, and it has 114 stations. And as our partnership evolved with Gray TV, they evolved, and they started a national investigative team called Investigate TV. They have a Roku channel that's a 24-hour loop of investigative stories, and they have been a terrific partner for us. In fact, the first year, I went to them and I said, I know this is really, really, really bold on my part, but I don't think we could survive unless these grad students have an internship this summer. Would you create 4 paid internships? 1 hour later, Gray said, done. And so that's the kind of partners we have. I mean, they're really terrific. And since we've had over 15 partners. Limestone Post, I just met Dyson today. Limestone Post is one of our partners. USA Today, we had them as a longtime partner, then they disbanded their investigative team. I'm happy to say they're back as a partner this year, so we're really excited about it. We're working on a story that I think is going to really knock everybody's socks off involving sports, youth sports, and it's really, with one of their best reporters for USA Today, Kennedy Jacoby. Associated Press, and now we've added Nexstar, which is the largest newspaper television group. Tegna has asked us if they can partner with the story on us. So our partnerships are growing. In fact, the lack of partners and projects is what's holding us back from adding more students. We just don't have enough projects, and we have a staffing problem as well, but we're working on that. It's me, for the first 3 years it was just me, and now we have a managing editor, Craig Lyons, who makes the trains run, and everybody needs a Craig Lyons because he makes sure all the work's done. And the way we work it, we put the students in teams. And this year, we always have a pizza party at the beginning of the year, and we sort of pick these teams. And we have grad students or a really savvy senior or junior be the investigative lead on each team. And it would be equivalent to an assistant city editor. And their job is to make sure everybody does the work. We know they're students. People get sick. People have family issues. People have tests and papers. And so the assistant city editor lead is able to say, you don't have your work in, and they can go to them and say, I can't do it this week. And so they can give it to someone else. So we don't leave our partners hanging, And the other reason we partnered with professionals is because students go on break and stories don't. And so this way the stories keep going. We don't have to worry about summer. We now have a summer program, which we didn't have until we got Craig. So we keep it open for 8 weeks in the summer. I think it's 8 weeks, maybe it's 10 weeks. I think it's 8. And I try to get out of town. And we also, even during Christmas, but if anybody here is an investigative journalist, you know that every news organization lets their investigative journalists off for Christmas because no one wants bad news during the holidays. So, that's one of the reasons I became an investigative journalist. I thought, I get the holidays off every time, I'm kidding. So we have continuity. And we also don't say, and neither do our partners, I need us for sweeps, or I need it for this date. We do the stories, they're done when they're done. So we're not trying to rush things. We want to, we're like every journalist. We want to publish first, but we want to get it right first. And so they meet weekly with our partners. Someone from one of our partners meets on Zoom, and they go over what they found, and sometimes, and they do it all. They do everything from data analysis, interviewing, sourcing, finding documents. You name what a journalist does, and they do it. Writing. Our partners are so good about saying, what do you guys think? And they're so grateful when our students find sources that they can't. And here's where we're good. We work a lot with Capitol Chronicle. They have like 3 or 4, they're all women, not by any, they just happen to be all women reporters. And they do one of the best jobs, I think, of anybody of covering the State House. But they have nobody. They have no bodies, And so we've worked on stories with them about, schools and teachers being allowed to, carry guns in school. We had the manpower to call 400 plus school districts, around the state. They don't. And so that's where we provide the manpower. But they also, we have said from the beginning, we don't want to just do the scut work. We want to do the good work too. We want to be on the interviews. So the other things, not only do we pay our students, we put them out in the field. And we have a lot of, we have some generous grants. We just got one from the Logan Foundation, and they gave us money, and they said, this is money to put the kids out in the field. And so we've taken students to Washington, D.C. We pay their flights, we pay their hotels, their per diem. I mean, everything a regular journalist would get, they get. And we did one story with Gray TV where they helped set it up. They were going to interview a senator. They came up with the questions with the journalist. She was on the air, obviously, because it's their network, but their station. And then when she was done asking questions, she turned to our students and said, what questions do you have for the senator? And he sat there and asked them. And we had one student, we also did another story, took another group out to do a story on gambling, student gambling. And they were interviewing a lobbyist, and they set it all up and had the lights and everything. It was with Gray TV. It just happened to be with Gray as well. And when it was done, one of the students got up and he said, I got to call my mother. He goes, this is just like 60 Minutes, And that's the kind of thing we're trying to replicate at the center. We want to do hard-hitting investigative journalism. We want to, treat them as journalists because they are journalists. We want to hold them accountable as journalists. And we don't just throw them into the mix. Every fall, we have what we call an investigative boot camp, and it's voluntary. They want to come, they can come. It's every evening, and every Monday night, and we have different people come in and talk to them about various aspects. We've had journalist professors come in and teach them how to shoot video on a cell phone. We've had, we always have the lawyers in. We always have the lawyers in a couple times. And we have one lawyer to talk to them what records they're allowed, and another one to tell them what they can do legally and not legally, and where they can stand and what they can, what happens when someone demands your video or the like, so that we're not just throwing them out into the world and saying, here, come back with a story. We're trying to equip them. And then we decided to broaden it out because they were getting bored with just the professors talking to them. So then we started bringing professionals around the country. This year we're going to have Nikki Kelly from Capitol Chronicles coming in. Jamie Gray from Gray TV is flying in. Last year we had Dwayne Pullman, one of the best investigative journalists in the country, based in Cincinnati. He came in and spoke to the students about interviewing. And we had another one come in from Denver to teach them how to source and how to approach sources. And, it's those kind of tricks we're trying, but pieces of the trade we're trying to teach them. And, it obviously is working. On one hand, I can count how many students do not stay with us. And they stay with us once they join the center. In the first semester, we don't take first semester freshmen. We do think they should get acclimated to college and know what it's like to roll out of bed at 6 to get an 8 o'clock class, or 10 to 8 and get an 8 o'clock class. But after that, the first semester, everybody works for us. This is for one course credit. Our graduate students are different. They get a generous stipend as an Arnolt Fellow for a 2-year program. And then after that, we pay them $15 an hour. And they all come back. And so they wouldn't be coming back if they're not getting something out of it. And one of the things they're getting out of it is great internships and great jobs. We have students at the Washington Post now. Emma Uber, who I don't want to take all credit because she also was at the IDS, but Emma Uber is one of our star journalists from, Ruth knows her very well. She's now a full-time reporter at the Washington Post. She just got that full-time designation this summer. We had a grad student this year who, thanks to a generous grant, we were able to take a dozen of our students up to NICAR, which is the computer-assisted national conference by IRE, which is our trade group, investigative reporters and editors. And they happened to have a couple of recruiters there, and they were looking for someone who had data but also could do TV. And I said, his TV's weak, but I said, you're never going to meet a better, more interesting data guy. And we've taught him the journalism. And Mitch was hired. The minute he interviewed, they go, we love him. We're not doing any more interviews. And they brought him down, and he is now at the flagship station in Atlanta on the investigative team this year for Cox television station. So these are just some of the jobs. I mean, they're all over the place. We had one woman who worked the first year with us and said she just wanted to take a year break. And later that summer, she called me and said, I think I'm going to apply for this digital producing job up in Cleveland. Well, she had no background in that. I mean, no other professional skills in that in terms of internships or anything. She called them up and she told them she worked for the Arnold Center. They called our partners, and our partners said hire her. And she today is now the digital manager in only 3 years. She is the manager of this. So they're getting great jobs. So there is a cause and effect here. But the other effect is our journalism. When our students run these stories, we run them on our partners' websites, and then we run them on in our own website. Everybody gets bylines or credit lines, depending on how the organization does it. Then we offer all of our stories free of charge to the Hoosier State Press Association. And for those maybe don't know that, the Hoosier State Press Association is the umbrella group for all the newspapers in the state. We've also offered them to the television, but we have a little problem there because they're so competitive. So it's not as easy to offer them the stories. But so a lot of times our stories will get not just one run, not just on our partner's website, but also on our website and then on everywhere else. For instance, we did one story on the environment and how legislators were writing legislation that could affect positively their companies they worked for on environment. It ended up in A1 on the Indianapolis Star. It ended up in Gary, Elkhart, Evansville. That's a ride where IU's name's getting out, the Arnold Center's name's getting out, and our students, more importantly, our students' name's getting out, and most importantly, our journalism's getting out. So we are trying to fill the news deserts in Indiana by offering them this. And I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Ian asked me to talk to you about a couple of the stories that we have done that I think have really had a lot of impact. I think my favorite, I have two personal favorites, and one was with USA Today. And it was a data-driven story nationally on police and the use of tasers across the country. And we worked, we had a group that worked on this. Every state, we got the data from everywhere, interviews all over. We were just about getting ready to have this story published when, sadly, a cop in Minnesota claimed she was reaching for a taser and instead gunned down a guy, and he was killed. And so that story was released immediately by USA Today, and until recently when someone else updated the data, that story ran all the time in the New York Times when everybody did USA Today. So every time that ran, the Arnold Center ran, our students' names ran, and it just shows the impact of this kind of journalism. The other one I liked is I have decided that I'm in the wrong profession, that the best job in the world is a fired losing college coach. and I haven't figured out how to become one yet, but I'm thinking about it a lot. But so our students working with Gray, it happened to be Gray TV, worked with some data out of Syracuse, and they took and saw how much this was, and they were able to report a story with Gray, how billions of dollars, how these losing college coaches were costing universities billions of dollars, and how that trickled down, so to speak, in other areas that universities could have. So our summer students decided to do one on the Big Ten, and that story just flew. Every Big Ten city that had a great television station or even a publication in that station or even some newspapers ran that story. Our students won the Hearst National Investigative Team and became rich. They got 10 grand out of it. So say, who says journalism doesn't pay, right? So it's just a favorite of mine. But there are some others. I mean, we just did a couple recent ones, a Limestone Post they just mentioned about medical. And I'm going to, there's so many these days now. We've done 50 stuff. Right now we're working on 8 stories with 7 professional partners. And that's what I mean. We need more partners. I can't if we had more partners and more projects and frankly a little more staff, we could give the students more hours. Because we're trying to accommodate so many students who want to do, we don't want to say no. We don't want them to have, this opportunity is here and we say no, they can't do it. How is that going to work later on for them saying, I never got the opportunity? So we're trying our best to get everybody into the center. But because of that, we're only able to give them about 5 hours a week. And we are equipped and endowed to do up to 20 hours a week. And so we're trying to figure that out. One thing that Emily and others in our board have helped us with, we decided we weren't going to be able to get a full-time staff or another staff member. And I also am a professor of practice, so besides all the administrative duties I have of the Arnolt Center and being the P.T. Barnum like I am today, I also teach, a class and I have the practicum with the grad students. So, we're just, Craig and I don't have any more bandwidth. So we have this advisory board made up of professionals and also some university people like David and Charlene. And we came up with the idea of maybe a visiting professor. So Emily got the funds from the Howard Center, and we have 2 right now, journalists in residence. And so that's helped us. One just announced she's pregnant, so and it's a surprise pregnancy. So we're probably not going to have her in the spring. So we're hoping to get someone else. We're working with the administration on that, but that has helped us do more stories. And also a lot of what we're doing in the center is what the university is trying to do with the journalism. We're pivoting from more of a narrative or 5 W's in that to more of a multimedia working for not-for-profits, because not-for-profits is the way journalism is going. The ProPublicas, right? The Baltimore Banner, the Arnolt Center. These are the centers, the Howard Centers of ASU and Maryland. This is where journalism is going, and there's great debates going. Is this a good thing? But as legacy newspapers and television start to disappear, this is where we have a lane to work in. And so we try to teach the students multimedia, but we're also seeing what we need, as journalists. I think, I started this and saying, I think this is a great time to be an investigative journalist. I have to tell you every once in a while I want to get back on the plane. We have groups that are using satellites. We never got to use satellites when I was at CNN, and I'm thinking, wow, how cool would that have been? Put a satellite on Rahm Emanuel's, office or something, would have been really fun. But, open source, AI, which is not an enemy, it can be really used, we've told the students to use AI, but tell us about it, because our partners want to know what's ours and what's AI. We don't want it in the writing, we don't want it in some things that cross ethical lines, but if it can help us gather information faster and better, let's use it. We should never tie our hands. And so all of our students are starting to realize this. We're pushing data, the curriculum. We're trying to, we're saying maybe we should switch from it's a required course to do statistics at the media school, and we're thinking maybe we should make it data with a little bit of statistics, because as I told all my students, you can get your first job without knowing data and how to use data, but you can't get a good second job. So we're trying to do some of that. So let's see what else I want to tell you. Someone asked me why why we've let other students in from around the campus, and I think it helps us to be well-rounded, and who knows, not everybody out in the real world is a journalist, went to journalism school. I have a student right now who's in grad school. He was a history major and an Olympic caliber swimmer for the Big Ten, for IU. And he came to us when he was an undergrad, major in history, and he said, I've heard about this. I really want to work for the Arnolt Center. I have no journalism background, and I can't come to your weekly meetings, but I will do all my work. And he's just a dream. He has now decided he graduated with a history degree. He delivered everything on time, all the time. Yesterday he was interviewing with Tegna. They're interested in him. He's a graduate student now. He's finishing up his second year. And had we turned him away because he was a history major, journalism might have lost a guy like this who was really interesting. And I think, my most favorite student in terms of his profession was a Jacobs music grad who came to me his second year, and he said, I just always liked journalism, and can I do it? And I thought, I don't really have a mechanism. I don't want him to do free. I don't want him to do it for an internship credit. He's well long. So we decided we'd pay him. And he said this was the most favorite time he ever had as a journalist. And I know you have questions for me. I can tell you a little bit about the stories we're working on now, but people like this Jacob School student who's obviously doing composition now in Chicago, and other students, they might not be investigative journalists. I'm not naive. Most of the people going through the Arnold Center are not going to be investigative journalists, and maybe they're not going to be journalists, but they're going to be better citizens. They're going to be better teachers. They're going to be better lawyers. They're going to know how to research. They're going to know how to make ethical decisions, and they're going to do all those things we hope make them better citizens, because I think our democracy demands it. So I want to end with, if you bear with me while I find this guy's quote. So out of the blue the other day, I got this email, and now it's buried in 10,000 other emails, but let me see if I can find Adam. This came out of the blue, and I want to show you this is the impact. Hi, Kathleen. I hope this isn't, his name is Adam. He goes, I hope, and in all honesty, I had to try to think of who he was. I couldn't really quite remember him. And he said, I hope this email finds you well. I'm not sure if you remember me, but I was part of the Michael I. Arnolt Center back in 2020. So this is 5 years ago. In 2021, before I graduated in 2021, I worked on the farm subsidy story. I was just thinking about you the other day and wanted to reach out to thank you for your guidance and help during my undergraduate. Without it, I certainly wouldn't be in the place I am today. Back in 2020, you connected me with the Associated Press during the election season, and I got a part-time job through that with the elections department there. I continued working part-time with them while I bounced around other jobs until around 2 years ago when they offered me a full-time position with the elections team. I'm still with the AP now, and I'm very grateful for the position I'm in. I'm not reaching out for anything other than to say thank you and express my gratitude for what you've done for me, and I'm sure for other students you've taken under your wing. You can imagine, I'm not a professor by practice like Jim Kelly or Charlene and Trevor or David and Rita and Bill. To get a note like that 5 years after graduation from, a guy who was only in the center maybe a year or so, to see that kind of impact. And I think if Michael's money is not good for anything else, it's good for the Adams of the world, and we have a lot of them these days, and that's what I'm happy about the center. So thank you. Now fire away. Okay, Jim.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Thank you.
I think I speak for the group when I say we needed this.
Can I also say one other thing?
Please.
Because I do have to wear a fundraising hat once in a while. I don't want Emily, I'm driving with Emily, and she'll say you missed the opportunity.
Yeah.
So, because she's very good at what she did. Starting November 1st, we have what we call News Match. We're a member of the Institute for Nonprofit News. I know Limestone Post is also, so I just plugged you guys too. And for every dollar we get, they match up to 12,000 or 15,000. And then we have a generous donor who has agreed to match the match once or twice.
Up to 30,000.
Up to 30,000. So please help us get that match. It starts November 1st. So thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
No, thank you. When I think of investigative journalism, I oftentimes, my mind goes to Bob Woodward and Watergate. And as I hear you talk about with such passion about your investigative journalist, I can't help but believe that there may be a Bob Woodward.
Oh, I think so. Maybe it's Adam.
your
You know,
wings.
who knows?
Yeah. But you talk about bringing those box. Is Mark Cuban aware of this?
Well, I've never solicited Mark Cuban. I think Mark Cuban is usually solicited by the students, right? You can straighten me on this. But anybody wants to write Mark, go right ahead. He's got enough money, you know. He could give us a little bit. I mean, look, it helps, right? You know, we do have an endowment, so we're a little, better off than some, and we're getting, I don't know how we did it, but last year we raised $300,000, which is amazing, and including from a group that said we don't fund university-based centers. And I said, that's all right, why don't you come and talk to us anyway and see our students? And they had lunch with our students. And I went to another conference, and they just bragged about us to everybody. You ought to go to the Arnolt Center. You ought to see the IU facilities. They're fantastic. And then they called me and said, we want to give you $100,000, even though we don't fund universities. I'm like, oh, all right. We're very blessed in that. But, it's never ending. I mean, everybody who's in this position knows that the more money, the better, right?
What efforts are underway to make alumni aware of this? I mean, after the IDS debacle, I know all of you have. I've gotten emails and text messages from as far away as Bangkok, Thailand, from alumni.
Yeah.
And I think we really need to get this investigative journalism group out there to pump us up.
Well, we're trying. Thank you, Jim. We're trying. I mean, we everybody who's contributed before, we asked them again. Every year, Ann talked about it. We have a investigative symposium every February. It's going to be February 26th. We usually have to wait almost to the last minute to get the keynote speaker, but we're lucky. We already know it's going to be Marty Barron. He's agreed to do it. We've locked him in. We even made sure he's locked in. We got him his flight. So we have a very efficient administrator who got him his flight. And what the symposium is, it's 3 investigative panels. One's always on sports, because sports is as I just mentioned, it's a huge business. It's not just about sports, playing sports. It's about money. Everything's about money. I always tell my students, take business classes. Yeah, I wish if I had done my IU journalism degree over again, I would make sure I would have taken a lot more business classes, because it always comes back to money. And so we're trying to use that alumni list from people that come to that symposium, and I hope you'll all come. We offer it free of charge. Anybody can come. It's at Franklin Hall. All the panels are one day. It's in President's Hall. So it's easy, I mean, except for maybe the parking, which I've heard about today. But we also even invite professionals. It's open to the public as well. Students obviously are our main target, but it's open to the public. And it's very informal. Our students get to, I can't tell you how many go up to Sarah Seidner from CNN, my good friend who's on our board, and they'll go up to Sarah and they'll say, you probably don't remember me from last year. And Sarah's just an earth mother. Oh yeah, I remember you. She hugs them, and they're just light up, right? Because a journalist is paying attention, and she hands out their numbers, and so do all the other journalists. We get a lot of people from ESPN on our sports group. We had their boss this time and the investigative team. We also offer this. We have the journalism director put out an email to other schools in the state, because we're in a position to have this. We have the contacts, we have the facilities, and we have, we also raise money to help put this on free. But we asked Purdue to come. They're our new best friends, as you know. And I never thought I'd say that in my lifetime. I come from a family of IU people. My mother's probably turning in her grave. She went to IU during World War II. And so Purdue, we asked them. We asked the University of Indianapolis. Everybody around the state, the major schools, we asked them to come too, because we know they probably can't put this on, so we offer that too. So, we want everybody. We want to make journalism accessible to all. So we use those. We use those lists, we use our alumni list, and I don't know how many other lists we use, but we try to reach alumni. And we don't utter the word IDS. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm an IDS alum, so, Anybody else? Yeah.
Just curious, have the students received any, blowback or retribution from the reporting they've done?
Absolutely.
And what do you instruct them? I mean, do the lawyers have advice for them, especially in this time where it's very easy to find a lot of personal information on people?
Well, Mia Hilkowitz, who is one of the editors, the co-editor-in-chief, actually is one of the, I have 4 students who are on the advisory board because it's their center, right? So they should be on the advisory board. And I picked her long ago, before she was ever at the IDS. And I mentioned the IDS before. One of the good things now about the IDS is their students both work at the Investigative Center, where they can work on long-term stories, and they still work at the IDS, where they do daily stories. And it's really, and in fact, this week, if you pick up the IDS, you'll see 2 stories in the IDS that were in partnership with us. So that's how full circle we've come from when we started, and they wanted nothing to do with us. So, I can only tell you it's been a horrible week. I mean, let's just be honest. It's just been horrible. I haven't been off the phone. I mean, this is the first break I've probably had outside of my class on Monday, and my class wanted to only talk about it. So, I know Mia. I mean, I'll tell you, I've been in some dicey situations, and at CNN, and I've had my correspondent threatened and thrown on the terror watch list after we did stories about TSA and air marshals, and I broke the story internationally about the doctor that euthanized patients during Katrina, and had lawyers and everybody after me for that. I always had an organization behind me. So I've had pressure. I know what it's like, but nothing like these kids. I mean, I just admire them, the courage they're showing. And so the blowback is clear, right? They've killed their papers, right? That's the ultimate blowback, So, but if you guys watch them in action, they're just, support them. I know people are saying, don't give to IU, and that's just ridiculous. I mean, the IDS Legacy Fund is going to the students and going to the paper, so please give it to them. And people are listening. I think, if I have these numbers right, $16,000 has been raised just for the IDS Legacy Fund this past week, which hopefully offsets some of the other big names that are threatening to pull out, But don't punish these students, because they're amazing journalists. They really are. They have so much courage. I'm proud to work with them. I really am. I wish I had that much courage when I was at school, Anybody else? Jeff.
So I know you can't go too far afield here.
Oh, I've never stopped me.
Oh, good. So
I'm kidding.
What do you think is next? I mean, what do you think needs to be done? I mean, do you feel this task force is hopeful? Or?
No, not for my, now I'm going to put my professor of practice hat on.
Okay.
So for me, no. To me, it's just, it's not the right answer, That's just me personally.
What would you suggest?
Well, I certainly wouldn't suggest a task force that people involved in the problem are creating. That's just my opinion. And you think if you're going to have a task force, make it independent. They haven't asked me, but I wouldn't serve on it. That's just me. I don't know. I mean, I think these are brighter minds. I think we have to acknowledge the harm that was done, and then I think we have to repair it. But like I said, the last thing to do is punish these students by saying, I'm going to show the IU, I'm going to hold my money, I mean, that's ridiculous, It's my opinion. But there are, Jeff, you look, faculty is talking about this all the time, I've got funders calling me, And what I'm telling them, all of them, is, hold your powder. We're trying to figure this out. The faculty was criticized for not coming out right away with a statement. We didn't know the facts. It seemed like verification got lost in the process the first couple days, right? One narrative went out, and no other side went out, and at least know what happened. I don't know if there's another side, but at least, and so the faculty waited until they had the facts, and I think the faculty emeritus did the same thing. I mean, I just think we're in a business of facts. Let's get them before we, it's easy to get ticked off. I'm really good at it, but I mean, it's easy, right? It's really easy to, blow steam, but it doesn't help the problem, And so all I can say is that the faculty is meeting and having a lot of discussions. I don't know what other discussions. I'm sure they're having them at Bryan Hall, but I don't, I mean, I'm a cog in the wheel. I mean, come on, they're not informing me what they're going to do, but, that's just my opinion. Yes.
Do you think this has damaged journalism, both with a capital J and a lowercase j, at IU in terms of hurting recruitment, hurting your center, the center you had, hurting the teaching of journalism at IU?
Well, I certainly think it hasn't been pleasant, right? I mean, it's certainly a black eye, but, journalism has survived. Journalism itself, big J, has survived a lot more, and they're going to survive this. I think this is a horrible episode. I think by my comments you can figure where I stand. I've seen nothing to hurt the center. I've had funders who've asked to talk to me. The group that seems to be most vocal seems to be the era when I went to the IDS, and at least on Facebook and everything else. And those that have reached out to me, I've talked to and told them what I know and what I don't know, and so, of course, it's a black eye. We're all talking about it. I mean, when the Guardian newspaper writes about IDS and it's not in the best light, of course it hurts. But now we gotta pick up the pieces, right? I mean, lawyers are going to sort. There are lawyers involved, as you know, and they'll sort that out. But I think we have to do the hard work of just keep reporting. Mia was in my office, and you know what she wanted the other day? She wanted to know our funding structure because she wanted to figure out, is there some other way with the IDS? So here she is in the midst of the firestorm, and she's thinking of the future. So I think if Mia can think of the future, maybe we could all too. And not put away our anger, but at least park it and use it constructively, because all of us who love journalism and who love IU and IDS, I just told you my mother went here during World War II. She and 4 of her 5 children went, and she never let up on my Illinois-born father that they went to IU, so it's my legacy. IU is part of my blood, and so it hurts to see this, but let's move forward without forgetting. I mean, we have to correct the damage. There has to be some answer to the damage, but everybody's meeting. I'm not the one that's going to come up with the answer alone.
If I can,
Sure.
Do you think print publication should be restored? And do you think Jim Rodenbush should be rehired?
Well, as to Rodenbush, that is in the lawyers. I think that ship has sailed in some degrees, and because it's on a different thing. He's not coming back, let's be honest, no matter what the lawyers decide. That's, realistically, in any situation, do you really think that's going to happen? So I think that, let's not talk about him. I wish him well in every endeavor, and and he's being feted all over the country and the like. But what was the rest of the question?
Whether print publication.
So I think the university should honor what the faculty said, and that is, I'm speaking as a professor of practice, not as the Arnolt Center director. I think the faculty said 7 newspapers, and that's newspapers, and to me, in a newspaper is news. It never occurred to the faculty to dictate what that publication should be, because that's not our job. There's a 1969 charter, as Ruth will tell you, and that's up to the students to decide what's in the paper. But you're asking me personally as a professor of practice and as a journalism alum, I think they should restore the papers and let the kids finish what they were doing. That's what the faculty intended when they signed off on the agreement last October.
Absolutely.
God, you're just gonna get me fired, aren't you? I'm kidding.
One more question.
Yes, I've had one since the beginning.
Okay,
Am I allowed to go now?
yeah.
I would like.
Joe and I worked in
Yeah,
Indianapolis
we go back a little
News.
bit, except I worked there at the paper way before her. All right, we won't get into that. But my question is about, what is your comment on the IU Board of Trustees that had one trustee from the alumni? Do other universities have that? How long have we had it?
I think we had 3.
Did the governor take it away from us?
Yeah, so now you're really, I think that's off the subject, but you'll ask, so, IU announced the other day that we have the largest alumnus group in the country, right? So I think we should use it. And I think we should have a say, but that's, All right, who else wants to put me on the firing squad here?
One more quickly.
I'm kidding.
I was just gonna say, flash forward 1 year, how's this all gonna shake out? What's gonna?
Oh, man, if I knew that, I'd be buying lottery tickets. Come on.
I like to think that, what's happened in the last few days has lit a fire under us, and, I think if we were passionate about journalism before,
Yeah.
even more so, and I'm hoping that
So what I think is what I said, use your anger to make this better, to fix things, Don't use it to punish a good journalism program. I'm telling you, I feel so lucky to work alongside staff members like Emily and Ann previously, and these faculty. I mean, they're amazing faculty, I mean, I've seen people say, go to ASU, or, the journalism school's gone down. I don't think so. Jim Kelly was a professor there. I thought he was pretty damn good, I mean, I just think let's work together. I mean, we have, anger can work in a good way too, But I don't know what's going to happen in the future, because I'd buy a lottery ticket, like I said. Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of ASU, are you getting any support from other journalism schools or Poynter Institute?
Well, I mean, I have friends all over the country, and they're calling me, and I'm sure they're calling other faculty. I'm sure they're calling, the IDS, look at what Purdue did, I mean, but even that, when I said facts, what Purdue was terrific, but it went out that they republished the whole newspaper. They did not republish the whole newspaper. But see, facts are the first casualty whenever you have something like this, And I'm not saying all the facts, I'm just saying some of the facts, but I thought what Purdue did was a tremendous gesture, because they also have been under fire, help them out too, so, we're all getting reached out by everybody. I mean, literally, I had surgery on Thursday. This happened Tuesday night. I was at dinner with some faculty, and all of a sudden our phones were ringing off the hook. That's how we found out about, the firing, and then the cancellation of the paper, which, I'll just say for me, I think that was throwing fuel on a fire that didn't need to, to me that was gas on the fire. That's the one thing I still don't know why they did that, and but. I haven't had a break from it. Everybody and his brother. Even here, you're not asking me about the center so much as you're asking about the IDS, which I expected, and I yelled at Ann for scheduling me today. So.